I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. I'm going to ask the clerk to announce the meeting and call the roll.
Roll call. Philbrook. Here. Walker. Here. Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Murguia.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Walters. Here. Holland.
Here. I want to welcome everyone here this morning and ask that, excuse me? Did I say this morning? It has been a long day. I'm used to the welcoming people on Sunday morning. Welcome everyone this evening. This evening the invocation is being given by Reverend Jean Flannery of La Misión de San Lucas. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amén. Let us pray. Oh Dios, venimos delante de ti en esta tarde. Estamos agradecidos por todo que ha hecho en nuestra ciudad y te pedimos sus bendiciones sobre nuestros representantes y que le dan sabiduría y amor y pues conocimiento de cómo gobernar esta ciudad. Solo bendigan todas sus decisiones en esta noche, Señor, y que te sean agradables a ti. Pedimos todo en el nombre del Señor Jesucristo. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin this evening, I do want to recognize three elected officials who are here in the audience tonight. I want to thank Marianne Flunder of the Kansas City, Kansas Community College for being here, Crystal Watson from District 500 School Board for being here, and Senator David Haley. Thank all of you for being here tonight. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. Does anyone on the commission, staff, or citizen in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on tonight's consent agenda? You would need to step forward at this time, state your name and address for the record, and ask for that item to be set aside. Any item not set aside will be voted on with all the other consent items with one vote.
Move to approve all items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Let the record show there is no one moving forward to set an item aside. It is properly moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Murguia.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. That motion carries 8-0.
All right. That brings us now to our first item on the mayor's agenda. That is an item with the Mid-America Regional Council. The Mid-America Regional Council provides a wide variety of work, and there are several of the commissioners who serve on MARC committees that do that work, but it impacts Wyandotte County in a number of ways. So tonight we're going to get a general overview, and then in the future nights we will be having presentations on specific areas that MARC works on. But I want to start off tonight it is my privilege to welcome the Executive Director of the Mid-America Regional Council, Mr. David Warm. Mr. Warm, welcome to Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and members of the Commission. It is an absolute delight to be here. MARC, as we're often referred to, MARC is not my name, it's the acronym for the Mid-America Regional Council, has such an effective long-term working relationship with this government. Many people are on the platform as well as in the audience, and many, many others are heavily engaged and in fact responsible for the contribution that we make to the metropolitan area. What I'd like to do tonight in pretty short order is to give you an overview of what we do at MARC, the role we play in the community, and along the way I'm going to try my best to give you some specific examples of how the unified government is directly engaged or benefits from the work that we're doing at a regional scale. But let me begin at the beginning for those of you here as well as in the audience who may be hearing this for the first time. The Mid-America Regional Council is an association of all the local governments in the metropolitan Kansas City. We are representing some 9 counties and 119 cities in both states. That includes Leavenworth, Wyandotte, Johnson, and Miami counties on the Kansas side, and Platte, Clay, Ray, Jackson, and Cass counties on the Missouri side. We are not a government. We have no taxing authority. We have no regulatory authority. So we are a voluntary association. We bring together the communities of this region and many other institutions to help create a forum where we can work together, communicate, solve problems, and help advance the interests of our metropolitan area. We are governed by a board of 33 local elected officials who are appointed by their respective jurisdictions. Typically, it will be the mayor or chief elected official of larger jurisdictions, or cooperatively, smaller jurisdictions will name a representative to our board of directors. These will be mayors or council members or commissioners. The members from this governing body that are currently on our board include Mayor Holland, as well as Commissioners Markley and Commissioner Walters. Mayor McTaggart of Edwardsville jointly represents Edwardsville and Bonner. His alternate is Mayor Harrington, and then Commissioner McKiernan has recently joined as an alternate to Mayor Holland. And so you are well represented in the governing body of the Mid-America Regional Council. Our work, however, is carried out through an extensive network of committees and workforces and task forces that literally involve hundreds of people. Federal officials, state officials, many of your staff members, member of business organizations, the general public, a lot of not-for-profit organizations, depending on the nature of the work that we're doing. And it is important work. Everywhere around the country, metropolitan areas are trying to figure out how to work together more effectively, and we've been doing that for a long time at MARC, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Fiscal pressures on all aspects in the public and not-for-profit sector compel us to come together and think about ways to move more efficiently. But the nature and the complexity and the scale and interdependency of the issues we're dealing with, whether it's transportation to homelessness, require us to think not only at the local level, but how we work in a metropolitan context. But perhaps even most important, I think we are increasingly realizing that our ability to succeed economically is not dependent only on what we do locally, but having the regional capacity for infrastructure and workforce and strategy that allows us to compete across the globe. Having said that, it's not easy work. There are a lot of interests, a lot of governments, a lot of perspectives, a lot of priorities out there in the region that make this work really hard to come together and find common ground around any specific issue. And so that is the role that MARC plays. We create the platform, the forum that enables diverse interests to come together, to work together, to build relationships, to build trust, and ultimately move forward with a common agenda. In everything we do at MARC, and everything I'm going to go through in just a second, everything is overseen, led by, supported by external stakeholders, such as local governments or other institutions. We support the people that we serve, and they are engaged actively in overseeing the programs and initiatives that we're involved in. We get into and out of a lot of different issues, depending upon the nature and priorities of local governments. They tend to fall into several categories, and I'm going to kind of go through those in areas that are regional inherently in nature, and they're important for us to think about at a regional scale. And the first of those is in transportation. One of MARC's core responsibilities is helping to develop a long-range transportation plan for the metropolitan area, thinking long-range about what kinds of investments and strategies and systems we need to have in place. We're currently updating that plan. We're in the process of doing that, engaging a lot of stakeholders that will take that plan out to 2040. And our focus has been historically and currently on system preservation, making what we own more efficient, making our services more diverse, and to some extent expanding the system. But it's really around those ideas of investing in what we have and making it work more effectively that are driving the current policy framework that we're working on at MARC. Bill Heatherman on your staff co-chairs our highway committee. Our work that forecasts our long-range needs is being co-chaired by Rob Richardson of your planning staff. And in fact, the forecasting process you're going to hear more about in the coming session One of our roles is that we help bring the region together to make forecasts of where population and jobs are going to be so that we can better decide where to invest our transportation resources. That's a challenging process. It's partly a matter of judgment, partly a matter of technical analysis. And so the work that Rob does with his counterparts does a lot of work over a long period of time, and every few years we update those forecasts. And you're going to learn more about those in a few weeks when Frank Link comes to make a presentation. Then one of our other roles is that we have the responsibility of allocating a good deal of the federal funds or advising the states on how they should spend the federal funds that come into our two states. I will tell you that Kansas money that comes into the region stays in Kansas, and Missouri money that comes into the region stays in Missouri, but we work cooperatively across the state line to make sure we're investing those in ways that make sense at a regional scale. Over the last several years, I think that since 2005, the unified government, by participating in MARC, from the funds we allocate, have received about $28 million in direct investments. We are currently in the process of updating our next cycle of funding, and it's likely that the unified government will receive about $11 million through this next programming cycle for important investments that you come to the table and say your needs are, and then we balance those with other needs throughout the metropolitan area. We work specifically in some modal areas, some specific, one of our major concentrations, which should be of interest to this group, is our work in the freight arena. We laid a lot of the groundwork for thinking about how freight can move more effectively in our metropolitan area, and we work cooperatively with a group called SmartPort, and much of our attention has in fact focused on the unified government. We worked very closely with Greg Kindle at the EDC and North Point Development to bring an auto supplier to the Fairfax, and we have a very concentrated relationship with BNSF, which has a huge presence in this county that really undergirds some of the freight planning and freight movement work that we're doing. One of our major focuses in recent years has been around public transit, trying to build up and strengthen the public transit network in the region. We've developed a conceptual framework that focuses on key corridors, commuter corridors for long-distance transit travel, and shorter-term urban redevelopment corridors. Two of those major regional corridors are State Avenue and then what we refer to as I-70 West. We've done a very significant study about how to connect unified government to points west and eventually to point east, and so we have a pretty thorough understanding of what those long-distance transit commuter dynamics are. And then we've worked a lot on the State Avenue corridor, I'll say more about in a minute. Particularly, we've also looked intently at access to KU Medical Center, and we've developed a deep analysis about how to move forward with different kinds of operational connections and investments to strengthen the connection between KCK, Northeast Johnson County, and then with Missouri users of the KU Medical Center. One of our most recent advances in public transit has been to bring together a committee that we're co-convening with the Kansas City Area Transit Authority called the Transit Coordinating Council. Is being co-chaired by Commissioner McKiernan. And this group is really on fire in my view. In the last several months, they have put their shoulder to the wheel and have within a matter of months, produced some services that significantly increase the service experience for transit users in our region. They've developed a unified regional transit pass. They've developed a Google trip planning system that connects all of the regional transit services in the region. They've developed a website that makes trip planning much more easy to handle. They're working on a co-branding strategy so that you can retain your local bus identity, but do that in a framework so that a casual user will understand how the system hangs together and identify it as a more unified system. And they're now turning their attention to issues of paratransit or special transit mobility, as well as how we allocate federal funds for transit. One of our big successes was a regional Tiger grant. We worked alongside the unified government to bring $50 million into the region. 10 million of those dollars went to the unified government and invested in significant transit improvements all over the county, including bus shelters and kiosks and pedestrian connections and a couple of new transit centers that I know you all are familiar with. But that has been a big regional success story of how we can work together with a strategic objective, with a good plan, and we can attract resources and investment. A couple more things real quickly on transportation. We coordinate a regional transit, regional traffic light coordination system called Operation Greenlight. 20 cities using technology connect and coordinate traffic movement along 700 intersections, particularly on major arterials. Unified Government is the third largest participant with some 64 signalized intersections. We're in the process of working on 7 more cameras at intersections to help traffic move more seamlessly through congested corridors. We also have a very extensive regional rideshare program. We just finished a survey that indicates that Wyandotte County citizens have a high propensity to use rideshare services, and so our next round of outreach will be particularly focusing on the county. We in fact have very deep relationships with 5 employers at 18 different employment locations in the county that are actively involved in those efforts. Turning gears, we are heavily involved in the environment. We have responsibility for coordinating the region's air quality strategy. Bruce Anderson of your health department is very active in our public education work. This is going to be an increasingly important agenda for our region as federal standards change, and we're going to have to work harder to stay in compliance with federal air quality standards. We develop a lot of information about natural resources. Your Parks Department has taken advantage of those significantly, particularly as they've dealt with the emerald ash issue. We have a solid waste management district that's funded with Missouri side tipping fees, so a lot of the investments on the Missouri side, but we have coordinated services that benefit the whole region, like the Ripple glass recycling service came out of that, and it serves the entire region. Household hazardous material programs, mattress recycling programs, our Recycle Spot website that gives resources to citizens, all of that benefits the entire metropolitan area. We work a lot in water quality planning and education and outreach, and most recently on energy efficiency initiatives. And the Unified Government has been part of a broader strategy to adopt state-of-the-art building codes that have dramatically increased the energy efficiency of new home construction all over the region. One of our most important responsibilities is in helping to coordinate responses to emergencies and emergency response systems. We coordinate the region's 911 system and have since its very beginning. Our role now includes helping to design and manage the process of upgrading the system, maintaining equipment, managing the database for the cell phone users of 911, which is now about 70% of the 911 calls come in on cell phones, as well as training all the dispatchers in the region. We have some very significant investments going on in that arena, including beginning a text to 911 system that we're working with on the wireless carriers. We are in the process of planning an upgrade in a couple of years to the Wyandotte County KCK 911 systems. And finally, it's important to note that the 911 system, because of technological changes, is starting to morph and merge with the regional emergency radio system, which we refer to as MARS, and the Unified Government is beginning the process of merging into that system. We have a very significant role in the Homeland Security coordinating and bring together the public safety community that has done some remarkable work cooperatively over the last decade, and you are at the forefront of that. Your Fire Chief Jones and Mike Baum of your emergency department have been at the core of our leadership group. They've been supported by other folks like Deputy Chief Duke and Joel Thornton and Joe Connors and Gay Hall and others who are working on things like tactical teams and developing various health surveillance systems and a lot of other systems that help improve our ability to respond cooperatively to significant regional events. And a lot of funds that have come into the region, some $70 million in total, have been invested in the capacity of your public safety response system. You are very involved, especially through Deputy Chief Wilson, through our hazardous material tracking system, where we do a lot of tracking and training and planning around hazardous material management. We have an emergency managers committee. Bob Evans was sort of a cornerstone of that before he retired, and he helped build a mass evacuation plan for the region and was a key architect of that work. And then finally, we have a system that connects all of the ambulance providers and all of the emergency rooms in the metropolitan area. They have a communication system so that in an emergency they can talk seamlessly. They have a web-based system so that as an ambulance is on their way to a hospital, they can make sure that there's emergency room space for them. and we help coordinate a lot of that work, and your folks are heavily involved in that. One of the more interesting things that they've done is they've developed a strategy that's now been deployed by ambulance providers all over the region. So they develop protocols for treating stroke victims in a common way that allows for a much higher recovery rate. And we're doing that across the board, training around that and developing a protocol that's saved lives all over the metropolitan area. We're heavily involved in social and community services that focus on people and family. We have a very interesting work around helping communities respond to the emergence of a very high number of older adults in our population. The people of my generation are now entering into an era where that we're beginning to think about them in particular ways. In fact, this county is going to experience a 50% increase in the over 65 population between now and 2030, and that's a lot of folks, and so that has implications for how you design services and systems. And we have a very broad regional strategy around that we can talk about. One thing I want to talk about very specifically is our healthcare access work. Wyandotte County has been a particular beneficiary of strategies that we've been engaging with safety net providers around the region to support improved services through safety net clinics. One of the most successful initiatives in the county has been helping safety net providers use electronic technology so that they can then access the systems of the hospitals and the specialty care clinics and the others much more seamlessly, lower cost, and improve the quality of care. And with investments from the Wyandotte County Health Foundation, we've been able to coordinate this county's engagement in a broader strategy. We've also been working with the mayor and others, including Enroll Wyandotte, and helping people get access to the Affordable Care Act provisions, and also helping expand hours of safety net clinics and doing a lot of other things that the foundation community has been involved in. We have a very thoughtful effort underway in trying to develop a coordinated regional response to homelessness, which is a significant problem in every corner of this region, and it's one that I know that you have been very attentive to for a long time in this particular government. I'm not going to say a lot about that because we're going to have one of our staff members come back in a few weeks to talk about that in more detail, but I will tell you that some of the work around outreach teams and strategic placement teams that you are actively participating in fact, have helped to create, are now being promulgated throughout the metropolitan area and making a big difference. We work a lot on placemaking or helping to develop more vibrant communities. We, as I mentioned earlier, have done some strategic investment along the State Avenue corridor, doing some sophisticated planning about how that can develop in ways that are meeting new market demographics and improve the attractiveness and viability economically and the walkability of that corridor. And we will tell you more about that in coming weeks. We work a lot with the older suburbs through a First Suburbs Coalition. They've done a number of things, one of which is to create a home loan program for reinvesting in older first suburban communities. And some 24 homeowners in the county have borrowed about $500,000 in low interest loans through that program and have been able to fix up and stay in their homes in older suburban communities. And then we've worked a lot over the years on the foreclosure crisis and have participated with this county and many others in bringing in federal resources and deploying those in ways that help keep people in their homes. We work a lot on just helping government be more effective. We help communicate in Washington and Topeka and Jeff City about the priorities of the region. We have a small cities program that provides specific support to smaller communities that have less administrative capacity with everything from grant writing to grant administration. Bonner has used this program on a number of occasions. We have a very effective cooperative purchasing program where we bid cooperatively or we share information about different kinds of piggyback contracts. We have a relationship with our counterpart in Houston that has a very effective nationwide heavy equipment purchasing system, and we buy off of their contracts. And in fact, you have bought some $6 million worth of fire and heavy public works equipment using that contract, saving you a lot of time in the bid preparation and anywhere from 10 to 20% on a cost of an item. And so it's been a very effective cost-saving cooperative initiative. We do a lot of research and analysis. Every few years we do an aerial flyover. Unified Government is a participant in getting current aerial imagery that we get at a cheaper cost and at a higher quality because we do it together. And then one of I think one of the things I'm proudest of is the degree to which we have helped to innovate over years how to get citizens more effectively engaged in the process of government. We are right now rolling out a new tool that we call Community Plus. We've got 1,000 people across the region who are involved in an online panel, and we're involving them in very deep conversations around a couple of issues. About 100 of those folks are in this county, and we expect that system will grow as we build it up over time. And hopefully over time we can make it available for use by our member and stakeholder participants. And then the final area I want to touch on, and hopefully I've left a little bit of time for questions, we have been increasingly engaging in strategic ways for us to promote a more competitive and effective economy. We work on a system we call the Workforce Intelligence Network that helps to provide custom information and data about workforce needs and trends specific to employers or specific to community colleges. We are going to be releasing in a month a report. Here's the draft of it on the employment profile for Wyandotte County. Frank Link, when he's here in early September, will share a copy of that with you and go through, but it's a very interesting, readable snapshot of the 98,000 jobs that are in Wyandotte County. We have some very effective workforce partnerships. We've been successful again in bringing federal and foundation resources together. One of those projects was called the Job and Innovator Accelerator Grant, where we have brought together colleges and employers to customize training at the employer level and also changing what happens at the community college level so that they produce students that are being demanded by employers. And about several hundred individuals. We've been particularly effective in our relationship with Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and about several hundred, a couple of hundred people have gone through those training programs and have worked, and we've also done some very specific work with companies like Best Harvest and Pride Manufacturing and A&E and the Casey Startup Village and some other initiatives that are specific to this county. We also just recently, I think many of you may be aware, have been involved in developing a pretty deep analysis of the regional economy, one of which is called Prosperities at the Crossroads, which we did in partnership with the Brookings Institution. Frank Link is going to present that in one of the upcoming profiles and talk specifically about Wyandotte County's role in sort of the broader regional economic challenges and opportunities we have. There's some warning signs in that report about the state of our regional economy, but there are also some bright spots, and two of those bright spots are the degree to which our region is excelling in advanced manufacturing and the degree that we are excelling in IT, especially in the health space around Cerner. And both of those sectors are particularly relevant to this county, and I think sort of position you well to be thinking about strategically investing in industries and sectors that can really drive the performance of our regional economy. One of our other current initiatives is just underway as a partnership with the Lumina Foundation, which has asked regions around the country to think strategically how they can improve the level of college attainment. Right now we're about average in about how many college degrees we produce, but we produce far fewer than the market is demanding. And it is probably the profile in Wyandotte County is lower than the region as a whole. And so Kansas City, Kansas Community College and others are directly involved right now in a process of thinking about a strategy where we can invest in and create services and systems that help with college attainment. Cindy Cash was at our last meeting. It was very influential in helping the group think about early college attainment strategies that have been really effective already in USD 500. I will finally say that we had a very great working partnership with Unified Government Kansas City, Missouri, with the prior mayor's bi-state innovations team, where we developed a playbook for helping the Google investment have a bigger and broader impact. And that platform continues to live on. We're spinning that work out of MARC, but through an independent organization called Kansas City Digital Drive, which we provide some support for in specific ways. They're continuing to drive forward on that agenda. So what I hope to do with that very quick overview, Mayor, is to sort of convey to you that the region, as complicated as it is working together. we're working together in ways that bring value to local governments, that save money, that help drive forward a strategic agenda for our region. And further, that the unified government is in the mix, at the table, leading that work, as well as benefiting from many of the products that we get from working collaboratively. And so I want to thank you for your leadership, for your investment, and for your support and engagement in regional affairs, and Mark in particular. So happy, Mr. Mayor, to answer questions if there are any, and I'm also happy to let you move on.
Okay, that was impressively fast.
That's usually my strategy, and I suppose if you gave a sermon like that every Sunday, you might. No,
I take a lot more time. I like to go nice.
I didn't mean that the way it came out, Mayor. I'm sorry. I made it just the other way. I talk too fast. I know that.
I like to preach like I like to eat pie, nice and slow.
There you go.
No, that's good. Does anyone have any questions about the work that Mark's doing? Like he did mention, there are specific areas like transportation that we're going to get a little more detailed input into because we're benefiting from that. The homeless task force, the regional homeless task force piece. The economic analysis they're able to do and bring to the table is something that none of the individual partners could do. But getting that analysis from them, we benefit from the work that they do in that analysis. So we're going to have some additional updates. But there's so much going on at Mark, I think we are remiss not to keep the commission updated on it, but also to keep our public updated on it in terms of the benefit of our involvement regularly with this organization. Commissioner Philbrook.
Yes, I want to thank you very much. I was able to be at your latest Homeless Coalition meeting, and I was very impressed by the people around that table. I am very humbled by how determined they are that they will definitely make a difference. They're not taking prisoners, they're creating a new world out there, and so I'm really impressed, and will continue to be part of that group.
Well, I will appreciate that, and I will give a nod to the unified government. It is former Commissioner Pat Petty, but for her, we would not be this far along. And so it is that kind of leadership coming from this county, and others of you provide that on other issues, but we would not have moved as far as we've moved.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Warm, thank you very
all
much for being here
You bet, my
tonight. We
pleasure.
appreciate your presentation. All right, the next item is about our strategic plan. We have a strategic plan coming up in October. We have asked the commission administrative assistants to try to identify a date when everyone's available. I am unhappy to report that they have not been able to find a date when everyone's available, but I want you all to look at the matrix they have created, and what I want to do tonight is ask, do we either want to accept one of the dates where not everyone is available, or do we want to look at moving it off a Saturday? We put out 6 Saturdays, and there's not one of the 6 between October 4th and November 8th that everyone is available. So I present this to you for your reflection. Are there thoughts? Commissioner Markley.
I was just going to say, we seem to be looking at sort of 4-hour time blocks, or 4 or 5 hours. We usually go from 8 in the morning until noon or 1 o'clock. So is it a possibility that we could pick a Thursday that we're not meeting on and just start at 4 and go until 9?
10.
I mean, it wouldn't be, ideal, but if Thursdays are nights that we tend to keep available, which I think most of us do, maybe that's an option that would make it easier to find an ideal day.
Okay, Commissioner Townsend.
I would favor keeping it on a Saturday. There's a big difference, in my opinion, when all of us come in fresh. And let me say, I guess it's 3 strategic planning meetings that I've attended now. For me, it has been a real key and benefit in strategizing for the budget and looking what's important. I would like to come with the freshest mind I can possibly muster, and a weekend would do that. I know it may be difficult for everybody, but I would like for it to still be on a Saturday, on a weekend. It would be a little bit different than what we do in the evening. I would just like to start fresh with it if we possibly could.
Commissioner Walker.
I see that I'm the only one not available on 11/1. I'll yield and be available on 11/1.
Well, for crying out loud.
Now, I will need your backup because that is my wife's birthday. And I will not go past 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Duly noted. And if you bring in her card, I think we'd all be glad to sign her birthday card and thank her for lending you to us for the morning.
Note that 11/1 is All Saints Day.
Appropriately. Okay, so we have a date, November 1st, Saturday, and please mark that on your calendar, and we will have our strategic plan on that day. All right, that brings us to our last item tonight. The last item tonight is an item about the at-large one commission position. We deadlocked on that about a year ago was the last we talked about it. And in my view, this is really the last opportunity to address it before it goes to the voters for election in April. So if we want to take action, we have time to bring someone in before the strategic plan. If the commission chooses not to take action, it would be my intent not to bring it forward to the agenda again until, and just let it go to the vote of the voters. So I bring that forward. The motion that I make is the same motion that I made a year ago, which we got deadlocked with the two finalists were not able to get to 6 votes. And so my motion again is to set Mr. Barnes and Mr. Budd aside and go back to the other 15 candidates as listed. If there's a desire to do that, then I have a suggested process. I don't think it's worth discussing the process if we're not interested in doing it. So I simply put out the opportunity for this commission if there would be an interest. So I have made my motion.
I'll second that motion.
It has been seconded. Is there discussion? Commissioner Townsend is trying to push her button.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to kind of recap a couple of suggestions, actually 3 that I made the last time that we deadlocked, just for kind of a summary. One was that a coin be flipped between the 2 top vote getters. And I'm just asking for information and for the benefit of those watching. I'm not sure what the status of that was. I didn't hear anything more about that, so I don't know if either Mr. Budd, I had heard through the grapevine that former Commissioner Barnes was agreeable to that. I still think that would be a fair resolution in that it involves the 2 top vote getters. Needless to say, though, I'm not advocating we go back to a vote again. I respect the votes that have already been taken of my fellow commissioners. I don't think any of them intend to change, nor do I. But just as information, if the mayor or the administrator has any information about that. The second recommendation or suggestion I made was a separate election. That was investigated, and for the information of the public, the number came in some minimally at $100,000. It was somewhere between $100,000 and $140,000 to conduct a separate election. That was not financially a feasible option, as it turned out. The remaining option that I put forth was to let the seat remain open until the next election, regularly scheduled election for the seat, which would be, I guess, the general election April 2015. I personally think that is still the best option in that it would be open to everyone. For those of you who may or may not have been following this, there was a lawsuit filed. I don't think that that is the way to resolve it. There was an honest dispute here of the commissioners. Nevertheless, the courthouse is open to all, but I don't think that was the way to resolve it. I don't favor putting aside the top 2 vote getters. for the reasons I've already stated. But because we want to move forward, I don't see the benefit in not exercising that option, and in recognition of those people in the first district and the other districts who want it filled, then I would be agreeable to that, with the caveat, be careful what you ask for. This would be an expenditure of funds for someone who may or may not be the person that is elected later in April. And I want to make sure that it's clear for the record that the language of the lawsuit says that the complainants were not represented, and I take umbrage to that. They were represented. Underrepresented may have been the better term, but I have missed no vote. I've tried to watch the money, as I said I would do. I've learned a lot on the commission, and it's been my observation that all of the other commissioners, those who came in with me and those who've been here, see this as a very critical position to hold, and put in a lot of time and effort that the public never even sees in trying to do the right thing. So with respect to that, I would also offer that maybe the bigger thing to watch would be whatever it is about the charter or the way this is structured that would put anyone in districts, I guess 1, 5, 7, 8, any of those who ran at the same time I did on that cycle, they would be at risk of defending their seat or not if they choose to run for mayor. To me, that's the bigger issue, not this, which is a temporary situation and will be dealt with. And people would be hard-pressed to point to what has not been done. I am talking about history, don't know what will happen in the next several months. But I don't think anyone could really say that the essential functions of the commissioner, the mayor, the administrator, we've selected a new administrator, and from my observation have not missed a beat. So thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, for the opportunity to do that. So I would support it with that caveat, just to move this on or not.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of comments. One, I am not in favor of moving this forward without all the commissioners present. However, with all of the commissioners present, I'm fine with that. We did not know until this evening that Commissioner Kane was going to be out. So we don't have everyone here, and I have concerns. This is a big issue, and I think we need to know where every commissioner up here stands on this issue. But as far as bringing the vacancy forward, I don't have any issue with that. I would tell you I would have some concerns, similar to Commissioner Townsend's, with the process. I do believe that commissioners can change their mind. I don't think it should be made up in advance for them. Thank you.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you. I just personally wanted to echo a little bit about what Commissioner Townsend said. At the beginning, we never did receive a response about the initial coin flip. And then I also would like to even propose the fact of putting both names in a box and having the secretary pull one name from the box. I'm not, if we move forward with 2 candidates and those are the 2 after we design that whole process and those are the 2 that move forward, then I don't know how we're going to make this okay to restart the process. To do, I don't know how we make that okay, even though we've drawn out the process over time. If we started with a process, if there's ways to make the process go forward, then I still support the fact of either, like I said, flipping the coin or doing all that we can to fill the position. And I will be a team player though with the commission if their choice is to move forward collectively. But at the same time, I do feel like we did a disservice not only to the candidates that advance, but to other people who want fair representation in their district.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Charter ordinance says we shall fill this position. Doesn't say may, will. We shall fill this position. Now, it is true that everybody in this community is represented by 3 commissioners. Their district commissioner at large, because each at-large commissioner is ultimately elected countywide, and the mayor. So I agree with Commissioner Townsend. There may be an underrepresentation, but nobody has more representation than anyone else. I regret Commissioner Kane's absence. I did not know he was not going to be here. I don't know why he's not here. He's sick? Okay, well then.
We just received the notice this evening.
Okay, people get sick. We need to make a decision on this and put it to rest. And I believe the people deserve 4 representatives, in theory, that represent their interest. That's what the charter calls for. That's what our ordinances adopted pursuant to the charter call for. There are 12 good candidates. I personally think there's 3 or 4 that are better than the others. I'm sure each of the commissioners looking at the remainder. It is clear we are not going to agree on the 2 initial top vote getters. And we could go through the exercise as suggested, but I would hazard to guess the vote will be 5-5 again. I agree with the mayor that it is time either to pick somebody or go on. As for the lawsuits, due process will take place. We don't do it any different than about every city in the state of Kansas, in fact, about every city in the United States. So if we're wrong, a whole lot of people are going to go down with us. So be that as it may, I am strongly in favor of trying to fill this position. We've now got a year under our belt. The election's over. We made that during the post-passion decline of the election campaign, and to what extent that affected anyone's vote or anyone's position, I can only, speculate and for myself. I'm ready to move forward, and that's how I've obviously decided to do. How anybody votes is still a matter of conscience, and hopefully we'll get someone with 6 votes to represent the people for the last 10 months. If they choose to run, so be it.
Commissioner Markley.
I have a few concerns, but I'm just going to voice 2 of them. And the first one is that our last round of attempts here obviously revealed a flaw in our procedure, which is that we didn't have anything in place to deal with the tie situation. And I know you didn't want to delve into the procedure yet, but for me it's kind of part and parcel. So our proposed procedure has the same sort of fatal flaw, and I think there's a fairly significant likelihood that we could arrive at the same position with 2 totally different candidates. So that's obviously a concern. It doesn't do us any good to go through this whole process again, drag all of these candidates through the process again, if there's a possibility we're going to arrive at the same place, and I think that's a fair possibility. And the other concern that I have is that some of the most vocal constituents who have been concerned about this position have expressed to me and have expressed publicly that they're not interested in throwing out those top 2 candidates. So I just don't know that that decision is getting us where we want to go either, with those constituents that have been most vocal with us in terms of why they want this position filled and what they think is fair. So those are just 2 of the concerns that I have about this process going forward.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's input. I appreciate this has been a tough issue, and I just want to say thank you in advance for the amicable conversation tonight. I think this commission has come a long way in the last year. We've completed 2 budgets, gone through 3 strategic plans, and I think this conversation was very amicable. So I appreciate the conversation tonight, and I trust everyone will vote their conscience. Commissioner Maddox?
So, you said vote your conscience? Is that- Okay, because I just wanted to know what our plan was. It sounded like we was almost wrapping up again without.
Well, we're getting ready to vote.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So the motion is this, to set aside the 2 candidates and to go back to the other 15 as listed. And my view is we vote that up or down tonight. If we choose to vote it up, we have a recommended process that we will begin discussion today. If we vote it down, then my expectation is that we're going to move this to the voters in April. Commissioner Murguia.
I just want it very clear before we do this vote, the only reason I would be against this process is because all the commissioners are not present. There's only 9 of us. It's not that hard to get us all together. I just want it very clear. We've demonstrated that people will make sacrifices, as Hal did earlier, for strategic planning. I want it very clear, I'm not opposed to bringing this vacancy forward. I'm opposed to doing it without all 9 of us here.
Okay. We are ready for roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Maddox,
No.
Markley,
No.
Walters.
No.
The vote is 4-3.
She didn't call you.
You didn't call my name.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Can I vote?
Okay, Murguia,
I'm concerned about this process now. My vote is no.
so it's a tie vote.
4-4, the mayor votes to take action. I would vote yes. That's only 5. Is that right? It requires 6 votes for action. The motion fails 5-4. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. We are adjourned.
Still didn't